35 for Wascom. And along I-10, there will be
635.
exit 878 for Orange. Yes, that means that you have to drive 878 miles before you're out of Texas to reach the next state, which is New Mexico. In
That's a
fact,
very
El
long
Paso,
route.
Texas is closer to San Diego, California, than it is to Houston, Texas. Up next is the landscape. The majority of the South consists of either coastal plains, beaches, mountains.
Hey guys, it's the Loud Guys. Today we are going to watch 9 reasons why Texas is different from the rest of the South. And normally what we see is like countries are divided into east, west, north, south, and the thing is like those portions are many ways similar to each other, because in India also, if we say North India, then we can say a lot of similarities, and even in South India there are similarities there also. Even the North and South are very different from each other, but in itself they are very similar to each other. But now they say that Texas is very different, so let's watch this
Video.
The first and most obvious reason is the geography and sheer size of Texas.
Very
If you
big.
look at the other southern states,
Huge.
they're kind of in the middle as far as land area
very
of
small.
U.S. states. Larger than northeastern states, but smaller than western states. But Texas is different. It is not only larger than every other southern state, putting it more in line with the
Orange is
western
big.
states, but it's also the second largest state in the entire country. At almost 269,000 square miles, it leapfrogs all of the western continental states and is only dwarfed by the gigantic state of Alaska. Texas is so large that it's bigger than the next 4 largest southern states combined. If Texas were its own country, it would be the 39th largest country in the world.
It's
To give you another
huge.
idea of how large Texas is, on the U.S. interstate highway system, the exits are usually numbered by miles from west to east and from south to north. Texas is the only state in the union where you'll see exit numbers that reach over 600. When you enter the state along I-20, you will see exit 635 for Wascom. And along I-10, there will be
635.
exit 878 for Orange. Yes, that means that you have to drive 878 miles before you're out of Texas to reach the next state, which is New Mexico. In fact,
very
El
long
Paso,
route.
Texas is closer to San Diego, California, than it is to Houston, Texas. Up next is the landscape. The majority of the South consists of either coastal plains, beaches, mountains, or Piedmont areas. The Atlantic coastal states have low-lying areas adjacent to the Atlantic Ocean that eventually give rise to the Piedmont and the Appalachian Mountains, while the Gulf states are characterized by low-lying plains along the coast that give way to hilly terrain as you head north. The other southern states are very green, as you'll find abundant amounts of grass and forests all throughout the region,
Texas is
along
everything.
with rivers and their associated surrounding valleys. While Texas is different. One can indeed find some similarities to other southern states in parts of Texas, but there are some distinct features that are Texas only when it comes to the South. First, let's talk about the beaches. Unlike most other southern states with a coastline, Texas is severely lacking in this area. Houston's beach city of Galveston simply does not compare to the East Coast or other Gulf beaches. Owing in its proximity to the western U.S. and by its larger size, the general line where the greener eastern U.S. gives way to the browner west slices right through Texas. As a result, you can find plateaus, desert valleys, and
There is
desert-style
brown
grasslands unlike
and
anything
green
that can be
in
found in
Texas.
other parts of the South. These mountains in Texas look nothing like the Appalachians to the east. To the north, one can find large escarpments, where the Great Plains meet the coastal plains,
This
rather
can be
than
a different
Piedmont
state
like in other
altogether.
states. And also great prairies that would almost make you think you were in Kansas if you didn't know any better. No other state contains such diversity of landscape quite like Texas does. The next reason Texas is different is due to its demographics. In most of the South, the demographics are, for the most part, black and white Americans with a splash of others here and there. The Carolinas, Virginia, Tennessee, the Deep South, especially, are all quite similar with this breakdown. But when it comes to Texas, things look quite different. In Texas, no one group makes up a majority of the population at 51% or higher. But the thing of note is that the largest group is those of Hispanic descent. At just over 40%, they have overtaken non-Hispanic whites as the largest demographic in the state. In third place is Black Americans at around 13%, followed by Asians at 6%. Texas also contains
Latinos
the
are
only
more.
large metro in the United States that has a population that is majority Hispanic, as San Antonio is the 24th largest in the country, and Hispanic Americans are 54.3% of the population. You can see this influence all over the state, as it's not uncommon to hear Spanish being spoken at any given time in any place. This can also be somewhat regional as well, as the areas close to the Mexican border tend to have higher Hispanic populations. The Rio Grande Valley and El Paso areas are of particular note in that the Hispanic populations in these areas can reach 80 to 90%, while over in Houston, things are split mostly evenly between the three groups. And the Dallas-Fort Worth area is slightly different with a 42-16-29% split among those groups. This map of the counties gives you a good idea of the demographic distribution
So
across
more
the state.
whites are there on
dominating the southern
east
and
side.
southwestern parts of the state, and non-Hispanic whites making up the rest. In most other southern states, aside from Florida, the demographic makeup is usually around 60% white, 20 to 30% black, and 10% or less Hispanic. And those demographics play a role in the next reason Texas is different, and that is some of the food. First is the barbecue.
Yeah.
The Carolinas and Tennessee are the face of what is southern barbecue, but Texas, of course, has its own
Even
barbecue.
barbecue.
With southern barbecue from the Carolinas and Memphis, pork is the primary meat. It consists of pork shoulders and baby back ribs. It is served pulled, shredded, or chopped, but sometimes sliced. It may also be rubbed with a spice
like a
mixture
dog.
before smoking,
Yes.
and mopped with a spice and vinegar liquid during smoking. There can be more regional differences between eastern and central North Carolina, as well as South Carolina, but that's the general style. While Texas barbecue uses beef as the primary meat, and beef briskets and beef ribs are the
Beef
primary dish.
briskets.
Texas barbecue is cooked until it is fallen off the bone and uses a sweet tomato-based sauce. What you can also find in Texas that isn't found in any other southern state is authentic Tex-Mex food. Well,
Tex-Mex.
the name says Tex-Mex.
A
is a
Texas
type of
mix.
Mexican food from
Tex-Mex.
Texas.
Wow.
Though it can be considered foreign food, it was in fact born right here in Texas.
It looks very
Someone could
delicious.
say
I
that
love that.
Tex-Mex is American Mexican food. And according to Twisted Taco, this term used to describe American Mexican food was first introduced in Texas. Residents of the state enjoyed their Mexican dishes and began making them at home with the food that they had access to, such as beef and flour. The Mexican restaurants in Texas started adding more ingredients preferred by Texans to accommodate their taste, resulting in what we call today Tex-Mex. Examples of Tex-Mex food include fajitas, nachos, and any dish that uses beef, black beans, canned vegetables, wheat flour,
even
or
nachos
yellow
are
cheese.
Tex-Mex.
These ingredients are not
Tex-Mex.
popular south of the Rio Grande or the Mexican border, and this means that Tex-Mex food is available in numerous places. And as the name states, it is a Texan thing,
Wow.
not a Southern thing. So Texas has Tex-Mex, while the rest of the South has their traditional hearty food that the region is known for. Though in modern times one can find both types of food in many parts of the country. And speaking of food, when I'm out here on the road exploring all of America's cities and states, things can get quite expensive. Between food, gas, hotels, and entertainment, the costs start to add up and you start looking for things to cut back on. Well, that's why I'm excited to share that I'm partnering with Bennett.
847. 1, 2, 3, go.
Next, let's talk about the roads in Texas.
Road.
First, roads, like everything else in Texas, are simply bigger. Bigger
Huge.
Everything is
stacks,
bigger.
higher flyovers,
So many
world's
stacks.
widest freeway, and some of the widest surface boulevards you'll find in America.
Oh.
While around the rest of the South, seeing a large stack interchange might be a big deal, in Texas, it's just the norm. Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta, Texas has like 10
Spaghetti
of those.
Junction.
I-95 in Miami would be just another road in Texas. Florida is also quite proud of its I-4 Ultimate project in Orlando. Well, in Texas, such toll expressways are nothing new. Another thing on the roadways in
For them
Texas
it is
speed
normal.
limits. In other southern states, you'll see speed limits that typically top out at 70 miles per hour.
Yeah.
In Texas, you will not only find 75 miles per hour on major interstates, but some rural two-lane roads as well. It gets even crazier with speeds up to 80 miles per hour in some places, and even 85 miles per hour on the fastest roadway in the country, just outside of Austin. Northern neighbor Oklahoma does have a few 80 miles per hour roadways, but then some would debate its status as a southern state as well. Then aside from that, Texas is also the king of concrete roadways. Concrete roadways are not unique to Texas, as you can occasionally find concrete used on freeways in other southern states. But in Texas, even the surface streets in the cities are paved with
Even the
concrete.
streets are
One of the
concrete.
first things I noticed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area was how much concrete was used all over the area
Oh
on
my
regular
God.
arterial roads. Definitely a Texas
Expensive.
thing. And they are always under construction. Maybe I need to invest in a concrete company.
This is
Same in
nice.
India.
Now on to
Yeah.
the cities. Typically, when one thinks of major southern cities or metropolitan areas, the Texas cities don't immediately come to mind. Many regard Atlanta as the unofficial capital of the South, with its cultural dominance and centralized location in the region. Atlanta is a fast-growing metro that is estimated to have 6.31 million people in 2023, making it larger than any other southern metro, until you bring Texas into the picture. Texas has not one, but two metros that dwarf the capital of the South in population.
Oh, it's bigger than Atlanta.
The Dallas-Fort Worth metro area is the fourth largest in the country with 8.10 million people in 2023. And the Houston metro area is right behind it with 7.51 million residents. They both are also growing faster than Atlanta, so the gap is only getting wider, with some predicting that they may knock Chicago from its long-held third-place position in the coming decades. But it doesn't stop with the upper-tier cities. The third and fourth largest metros of San Antonio and Austin compete with second-tier southern metros such as Tampa, Charlotte, Orlando, Nashville, and Raleigh-Durham. So while the South has a decent amount of metros to go around, Texas can hold its own. All contained
Texas
within one
is just
state.
massive.
It's safe to say
Don't
that
compare
Atlanta's
it
influence
with
over the
anything.
South ends at the Texas state line. Capital of the South, except Texas. Now the next thing that's different about Texas is the history.
History.
While most other southern states went from colonies of foreign countries or U.S. territories prior to becoming a state, Texas actually had a period of being its own country. After the Mexican War of Independence against Spain, Texas was included in the newly independent United Mexican States of America. In an effort to populate the area, the Mexican government encouraged immigration from other countries, as well as migration from other parts of Mexico. So many Americans came to the territory to the point that in 1830, the Mexican government banned immigration from the United States. Though significant illegal immigration from the United States continued to occur. By 1836, Texas delegates had decided to break away from Mexico and declared the independence of a new Republic of Texas.
Texas
The
was a
U.S. recognized the
country.
Republic of Texas in 1837, though clashes with Mexico continued through the 1840s. On the other end, Mexico refused to acknowledge its independence, nor did it entertain U.S. offers to buy Texas. It had its own constitution, its own presidents, and even had formal relations with some foreign countries. However, in 1845, the U.S. annexed Texas and admitted it to the Union, thus ending the 9-year-old Republic of
US
Texas
took it
and
over.
anchoring Mexico, giving way to the Mexican-American War, and the rest is history. No other southern state came into the Union after being its own country. Next on the list is the split loyalties as far as what region Texas does belong to.
Regions?
Why
Depending on
split?
where you are in Texas, it could be considered as part of the West, the South, the Great Plains, Northern Mexico, Western Oklahoma, and New California. The southern part of Texas roughly follows Interstate
This
45
state has its own
between
places.
Houston and Dallas.
North, south.
With Houston no doubt being considered southern, while things get a little interesting up in the DFW. East of Dallas, most will say, is southern, while Dallas and points north can be claimed as the Great Plains. The area around the Oklahoma state line is already referred to as Texoma, and Dallas has already set its sights on this region as future territory for unlimited DFW sprawl. While still in the DFW on the western side, the city of Fort Worth is where many say the West begins. West Texas then stretches all the way down the I-20 corridor through the oil fields of Odessa and Midland and on to El Paso. Now it can be debated whether Fort Worth or El Paso is the center of West Texas, but I'd go with Fort Worth. Over the Panhandle, you'll find West Oklahoma,
West.
which is centered
It's a
around.
square.
I've driven through this area on both I-40 and US 87, and it definitely looks more like Oklahoma than the rest of Texas. This area here, to include Corpus Christi, San Antonio, and the Rio Grande Valley,
Mexico del
is
Norte.
northern Mexico. Out here, the population is significantly more Hispanic than other parts of the state, and San Antonio is no doubt the most dominant city here. And finally, there is the capital region around Austin. It is said that the capital city of Austin is the least Texas city in Texas. It is also the most popular area of the state for relocated folks from California. In Austin, you will find an incredibly fast-growing skyline, the flagship University of Texas at Austin, more walkability than other Texas cities, but also the worst traffic of all the Texas cities.
All the goods and bads of
While in
California.
the rest of the South, for the most part, the states can more easily be fit into a single region. Though many will have something to say about South Florida and the DMV status as southern metros. And the last thing I want to talk about is Texas state pride. Now, this is not to say that people in other states
People are proud of their states. Like even I am very proud of my state, Gujarat.
The Lone Star has long been a symbol of Texas pride since before it was even a state.
Oh.
And you can find it used absolutely everywhere when traveling around.
Star.
It's on billboards. It is on cars. It is used for freeway art. I've even seen people with it on their homes.
Wow.
And of course, America's team over there in Dallas uses it for their logo. Though the last time that team won anything, YouTube nor Google even existed yet. You'll also see the Texas state flag everywhere. It's just a standard practice at this point. You'll see the star or the flag in all Texas cities.
They have a very good state flag.
And the other thing you'll see is the state of Texas silhouette. When I stopped at the rest area entering the state on I-20, they had a Texas state-shaped monument outside. You'll see the state plastered all over several
Everywhere.
places just as much, if not more.
This is too much love with the state.
Even those not from Texas recognize the shape of Texas when they see it. The Texas state shape might be more popular and recognizable than that of any other U.S. state.
Actually.
And then there is the "Don't Mess with Texas" slogan. Originally coined by the Texas DOT as a campaign to reduce litter, it later became a part of Texas identity.
Don't mess with
and a source of
Texas.
Texas pride. You can find this slogan all over the state, on shirts, on cups, and various other souvenirs. And in public schools, the children in Texas pledge their allegiance not only to the United States flag, but also their allegiance to the Texas state flag. Other southern states just don't have the same level of state pride that you will find in Texas.
Texas is like actually a country. It should be a country because how big it is and how everything it has. Like it has its own flag, it has its own pride. And like, you know, we are very proud of our country too. We have our Indian flags and everywhere. But like having so much, feeling so much proud for your own state is something very, very different. Like I would talk about my state, I would talk about like how good my state is, but I would not just print the logo of the state in my home or like have like the flag of the state at my home. So this is something very crazy.
This is very, you know, I just like this system because, you know, every state has its own identity. You know, the own flag, because here in India, everywhere you would see it's the only Indian flag. But I've seen like Texas flag and the America's flag, they were all together. But this is very interesting, and I only thing I know about Texas is the food, because I am like so excited to eat all the huge things.
Actually, so what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So do like, share and
Subscribe.
bye.
Bye.